When you think of legendary car collectors, your mind probably jumps to hypercars, roaring V12s, and multi-million-dollar showpieces. But James May, affectionately known as Captain Slow, has always taken a different route. While he's had access to some of the fastest and most iconic machines on the planet, his heart often lies with the odd, the overlooked, and the underappreciated. To James May, a car doesn't need to be fast or flashy to be fascinating. He finds joy in vehicles that tell a story, machines with clever engineering, historical quirks, or simple, honest charm. From humble hatchbacks to forgotten saloons, his garage is a celebration of character over clout. Welcome to Vintage Vehicles, where we dive into the past to uncover the soul of motoring. So today, we're exploring James May's unsung heroes, the oddball cars he loves, and why they just might change how you see driving forever. The Captain Slow philosophy. James May has never tried to hide who he is when it comes to cars. While his co-host on Top Gear and the Grand Tour often gravitate toward raw horsepower and flamboyant designs, May consistently champions a quieter kind of motoring, one rooted in engineering, purpose, and honesty. It's a perspective that has earned him the nickname Captain Slow, but it's also what makes his philosophy so refreshing in an era obsessed with speed and status. At the heart of May's automotive worldview is the belief that cars should be appreciated for how they work, not just how they look or how fast they go. Speed isn't everything, he once said. It's more important that a car does what it was designed to do well and without fuss. That's why May often finds beauty in what others consider boring: a well-made gear shift, a logically designed dashboard, or a reliable underpowered engine that simply works. One of his favorite examples of engineering honesty is the original Fiat Panda, a boxy, no-frills hatchback from the 1980s. To most people, it's a cheap runaround, but to May, it's a masterclass in functional design. Its flat panels, upright windows, and minimalist interior weren't the result of laziness or cheapness, but intentional decisions to make a small car simple, efficient, and affordable. It's one of the cleverest cars ever made, May has said. It doesn't pretend to be anything it's not. This mindset extends to his views on modern car culture. May has often criticized the obsession with SUVs, overcomplicated infotainment systems, and sporty trim packages that add nothing but cost and visual noise. A car is not a smartphone, he once lamented during a segment on the Grand Tour. It doesn't need to update itself every 6 minutes or bombard you with pointless notifications. Instead, he argues, cars should be tools first, designed to transport, perform, and endure. It's why he has such admiration for vehicles like the Toyota Corolla or Dacia Sandero. These are not cars that turn heads, but they serve their purpose with quiet competence. To May, that's a kind of greatness rarely acknowledged. There's real dignity in a car that does the job well without trying to impress anyone. May's appreciation for the mundane and mechanically sound also stems from his background. Before television, he studied music and worked as a sub-editor at Autocar, where his deep technical curiosity blossomed. This technical lens, valuing function over flash, is what guides his preferences. He once joked that he found the Honda Jazz's seat-folding mechanism more impressive than a Ferrari's acceleration. It's beautifully thought out, and it works every time. What more do you want? His resistance to modern trends is not just nostalgia. It's often a critique of what he sees as automotive excess. He's skeptical of performance EVs that promise neck-snapping torque but feel sterile to drive. He's wary of touchscreen interfaces that replace physical buttons and compromise safety. We're losing the connection, he warned in a 2022 interview. Cars are becoming gadgets, and driving is turning into an app. Yet for all his complaints, May doesn't hate technology. What he dislikes is technology for its own sake, complexity that doesn't serve the user. His ideal car is one where every part exists for a reason, every system works in harmony, and the experience of driving is engaging, not overwhelming. The Captain Slow philosophy, then, is not anti-speed, it's pro-substance. It celebrates engineering over ego, purpose over posing, and in a world of automotive one-upmanship, James May reminds us that sometimes the most extraordinary cars are the ones that simply get it right. Through his lens, even the dullest car can become something special, not because it's flashy, but because it's clever, honest, and unashamedly itself. The Honda Super Cub. When James May speaks fondly about the Honda Super Cub, he isn't being ironic. To the untrained eye, it's just a small, slightly old-fashioned scooter. Hardly the kind of machine you'd expect a motoring journalist and TV presenter to celebrate. But to May, the Super Cub is a triumph of functional engineering and one of the most important motor vehicles ever made. The Honda Super Cub is the greatest motorcycle in history, May once declared, and he meant it. First introduced in 1958, the Super Cub was designed to be accessible, reliable, and above all, useful. Powered by a small air-cooled 4-stroke engine, typically ranging from 49cc to 125cc, the bike was never about speed or power. It was about getting people from A to B safely, affordably, and dependably. And it did that with such success that by 2017, Honda had sold over 100 million units, making the Super Cub the most produced motor vehicle in the world. May appreciates machines that fulfill their design brief with precision and humility, and the Super Cub does exactly that. Its step-through frame made it easy to mount, even in traditional clothing. Its semi-automatic gearbox allowed beginners to ride without mastering a clutch. Its fuel economy was legendary, often exceeding 100 miles per gallon. "It's just brilliant," May once said. "It works, it doesn't break, and it doesn't pretend to be something it's not." But beyond its clever engineering, the Super Cub has had a profound social and economic impact worldwide. In countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, it became the backbone of local transport. It carried workers to factories, children to school, and goods to market stalls. In Vietnam and Thailand, it's still common to see entire families balanced on a single Super Cub, helmets optional, smiles guaranteed. And in the West, it was the bike that helped change motorcycling's image. With the 1960s campaign slogan, "You meet the nicest people on a Honda," the Super Cub introduced millions of Americans and Europeans to two-wheeled travel without the stigma of biker gangs or noisy, greasy machines. It wasn't rebellious, it was respectable, and in doing so, it helped normalize motorcycles for everyday use. James May didn't just admire the Super Cub from afar. He owned one himself, proudly discussing it in interviews and even riding it in Top Gear specials. Eventually, he auctioned it off for charity, but not without a bit of sadness. It was a lovely little bike, he reflected. You just can't help but like it. It's so honest. And that honesty is what ties the Super Cub so neatly into May's larger automotive philosophy. This isn't a machine for posing. It's not going to turn heads at a cafe, but it'll start every morning, sip fuel like a sparrow, and run for decades with minimal maintenance. In an age of overcomplicated vehicles and over-designed gimmicks, the Super Cub remains an icon of clarity. For many in the audience, this story will feel deeply personal. Maybe your uncle rode one to work for 30 years, or maybe you learned to ride one as a teenager, or maybe you've just seen them buzzing quietly through the city streets and villages around the world, still doing their job without fuss or fanfare. And that's the magic. The Super Cub isn't rare or expensive. It's meaningful. It represents engineering that serves people, not prestige. To James May, that's worth more than carbon fiber wings or 0 to 60 bragging rights. The Fiat Panda. If there's one car that truly captures James May's form follows function philosophy, it's the original Fiat Panda. While many enthusiasts fawn over Ferraris and Lamborghinis, May reserves some of his deepest praise for this humble Italian hatchback, a car he's described as a masterpiece of minimalism and one of the most intelligently designed vehicles ever made. The first-generation Fiat Panda was launched in 1980, designed by the legendary Giorgetto Giugiaro, the same man behind icons like the DeLorean DMC-12 or the VW Golf MK1, and the Lotus Esprit. But with the Panda, Giugiaro wasn't aiming for speed or beauty. He was aiming for utility. He famously said, "I tried to design a house on wheels, a robust, no-frills vehicle that would be easy to use and cheap to produce." Everything about the original Panda was engineered with this philosophy in mind. Its boxy shape wasn't the result of laziness. It was intentional. Flat glass panes were cheaper to manufacture and replace. The upright seating position made the car more comfortable and spacious inside. The dashboard was a single plastic tray with slots and bins. Not fancy, but incredibly practical. The seats were hammock-style and removable, allowing the car to be turned into a minivan or a camper in minutes. As May put it, it was designed not just to be a car, but to be useful, and it succeeded brilliantly. James May has owned several Fiat Pandas, and his affection for them is more than just ironic admiration. He truly believes the Panda embodies a kind of brilliance that is often overlooked in the age of oversized SUVs and hyper-digitized dashboards. In a column for Top Gear magazine, he once wrote, "There's no pretension in a Panda. It's not trying to make a statement. It simply exists to do its job well." And it does. In an episode of James May's Cars of the People, he even argued that the Panda could be considered the spiritual successor to the original Mini. Not in performance, but in democratic accessibility. Both cars were designed to be affordable, efficient, and adaptable. But while the Mini eventually became a retro-styled fashion icon, the Panda has stayed true to its roots, a reliable workhorse for the everyday driver. One of the features May particularly adores is the 4x4 version of the Panda, developed in collaboration with Austrian manufacturer Super Cub. Despite its tiny engine and low power output, the Panda 4x4 became an alpine legend, capable of climbing steep hills and navigating snow-covered mountain passes that would stop heavier, flashier SUVs in their track. "It's the mountain goat of cars," May once joked, and it doesn't need a badge to tell you how capable it is. The story of the Panda is also a reminder to the audience that not all great cars need to be rare or expensive to matter. You don't need a concours-winning classic or a fire-breathing supercar to own a piece of automotive brilliance. Sometimes, greatness is found in simplicity, in a car that starts every time, fits your groceries and your dog, and sips fuel instead of guzzling it. For many viewers, the Panda is more than a quirky old hatchback. It's a car their parents drove. It's a vehicle they learned to drive in. It was part of everyday life, the school run, the corner shop, the rainy motorway, and that's exactly what James May finds so special about it. The VW Beach Buggy. Among the many machines James May has driven, few embody his playful side quite like the custom-built VW Beach Buggy from the Grand Tour's Namibia Special. While May is often known for celebrating practicality and function, this car was something different. Raw, ridiculous, and undeniably fun. Yet beneath the bright paint and bouncy suspension, the buggy still fit perfectly with his automotive philosophy. A humble machine, repurposed and reimagined with personality and purpose. The origin of the Beach Buggy lies in the iconic Volkswagen Beetle, one of the most produced cars in history. Thanks to its rear-mounted, air-cooled engine and simple rugged chassis, the Beetle became the perfect donor vehicle for a range of custom builds. None more famous than the Dune Buggy. Stripped down, rebodied, and often thrown onto oversized tires, these DIY creations became symbols of freedom and creativity in the 1960s and 70s California car scene. James May's buggy, however, wasn't built for Malibu beaches. It was built for the deserts of Namibia, a brutal testing ground featured in the Grand Tour's Season 1 special, The Beach Buggy Boys. In this episode, May, along with Jeremy Clarkson and Richard Hammond, was tasked with traversing one of the world's most unforgiving landscapes in self-designed and self-built beach buggies. And true to form, May's creation was equal parts eccentric and endearing. May's buggy was noticeably different from Clarkson and Hammond's. Where theirs had flashy touches and aggressive flair, his was modest and practical, complete with a luggage rack and a typically May-esque color scheme, light blue with tasteful trim. It looks like it belongs in a seaside postcard, Clarkson quipped, but May didn't build it to show off. He built it to survive and to have fun doing it. The buggy's flaws quickly became part of its identity. The minimalist windshield was near useless against sandstorms. The exposed engine begged for mechanical issues, and its handling over dunes was more hopeful than precise. But that was the charm. This wasn't a car for lap times. It was for laughter. It's got the turning circle of a fridge, May complained during filming, only to later describe the experience as one of the most joyful drives of his life. And that's the key to understanding why this machine matters in the James May automotive universe. While he loves logical cars like the Fiat Panda and the Super Cub for their purposefulness, he also sees values in cars that are just plain silly, but fun. The Beach Buggy, built from a chassis most would scrap, became something extraordinary through creativity and character. As he put it, you feel every bump, you hear every squeak, and you're always slightly terrified. But that's what makes it come alive. For viewers and enthusiasts, this is a powerful reminder that customization is a celebration of personal expression. You don't need to buy $1 million classic to own something special. You could take something ordinary, a tired old Beetle, an unloved hatchback, and turn it into something that reflects you. Whether it's off-road madness, retro flair, or just adding a roof rack to carry more nonsense, modifying cars isn't about perfection. It's about personality. The Beach Buggy also taps into something timeless, the spirit of the garage builder, the weekend tinkerer, the person who'd rather weld than wax. It's that sense of hands-on connection that modern cars, with their sealed ECUs and touchscreens, often lack. James May's Namibia Buggy may not sit in a museum or win Concours awards, but it does something arguably more important. It makes people smile. And for a man who spent his career telling us that cars are more than just machines, that they're experiences, tools, and even companions, that kind of joy is worth celebrating. James May's garage might not impress your typical supercar enthusiast. You won't find rows of Lamborghinis or Bugattis gleaming under spotlights. Instead, you'll find humble hatchbacks, cleverly designed scooters, and vehicles that most collectors wouldn't look at twice. But that's exactly what makes May such a compelling voice in the automotive world, because he reminds us you don't need millions to enjoy cars. You just need curiosity, appreciation, and a willingness to look beyond the badge. May's philosophy is a quiet rebellion against a culture that increasingly ties car enthusiasm to wealth and exclusivity. For him, accessibility is the point. Cars like the Fiat Panda or the Honda Super Cub are not just acceptable choices, they're great ones. Not because they're fast or rare, but because they were brilliantly designed for everyday life and they did their jobs exceptionally well. That's a kind of greatness that doesn't require a showroom floor. His perspective also opens the door for a broader, richer view of automotive history, where others may celebrate horsepower figures or acceleration times. May digs into how things work and why they were made the way they were. He sees a beautifully engineered seat mechanism or a cleverly designed door handle with the same reverence others reserve for a V12 engine. There's more to a car than just driving it fast, he once said. Sometimes it's about admiring the way it's put together or the problem that it was trying to solve. This is where May's infamous slowness comes into focus, not just in how he drives, but how he thinks about vehicles. His Captain Slow approach isn't a joke. It's a philosophy of attention. By slowing down, he encourages a deeper appreciation for the mechanics, the materials, and the human stories baked into every vehicle, no matter how ordinary it might appear. It's an approach that values patience over power, observation over obsession. In a world where the latest tech and trends dominate car headlines, May's voice is a grounding presence. He doesn't chase after fads or futuristic gimmicks. Instead, he returns to the core principles of good design, functionality, clarity, and purpose. He's critical of overcomplicated infotainment systems, skeptical of oversized SUVs that do little more than consume more fuel, and weary of performance EVs that sacrifice character for sterile speed. Yet, May isn't anti-progress. What he resists is meaningless complexity. He welcomes innovation that solves real problems and makes cars better, but not when it's just for show. His message is clear. Engineering should serve people, not marketing departments. That's a lesson every driver, collector, or enthusiast should take to heart. For viewers of vintage vehicles, James May's philosophy is more than relevant. It's a guiding principle. Like May, this channel isn't about exclusivity or elitism. It's about telling the stories of cars that mattered, whether they won Le Mans or simply got a family to school every day for 20 years. It's about appreciating cleverness, practicality, and history, even in the least glamorous corners of the automotive world. May teaches us that every car has a story, and that sometimes the most moving tales come from the machines we've overlooked. His love for the ordinary, the Panda, the Super Cub, the humble estate car, reframes our understanding of what it means to be a car person. You don't have to worship speed or own something rare. You just have to care about how things work and what they mean. James May has redefined what it means to love cars. While others chase speed and prestige, he celebrates the humble, the overlooked, and the brilliantly designed vehicles that quietly shape our world. From the Honda Super Cub to the Fiat Panda, his affection for unsung heroes invites us to see beauty and purpose, not just polish. He reminds us that true passion for vehicles isn't just about what's fast or flashy, but about the stories they tell, the engineering they represent, and the joy they bring, even if it's at Captain Slow speeds. Now it's your turn. What's your unsung hero? Share your favorite underrated vehicle in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Vintage Vehicles for more deep dives into the fascinating, often forgotten corners of automotive history.